Hello, everyone. We're going to sing some songs and praise the Lord today, so let's all stand and worship together. I was lost in a broken heart, but picked me up and I'm set apart. From the ash and the born dead, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You want more than words to say. I'll follow you, but for all my days, fix my eyes on your ways. Forever free in the empty grace. Yes, you are my freedom. Lift you higher, lift you higher. I'm free, we lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never ending. Oh, you are alive in us, nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, light will shine when all else fades, never ending. Your glory goes beyond all pain. Consume me from the inside out, Lord. Let justice and praise become my embrace, to love you from the inside out. You are good, when there's nothing good in me. You are love, on display for all to see. You are light, when the darkness closes in. You are hope, you have covered all my sin. You are peace, when my fear is crippling. You are true, even in my wandering. You
is other places, doing other things, dealing with life. And so we get in the midst of all of that chaos of life, and the song here urges us to understand that one of the best things we can do is to run in the direction of God, to make a mad dash to God, to run to Him, and to do it so intentionally that we're ready for the help that only God can bring. And so that song, as I was singing that, oh, I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. You know, trying to think back last week, how many moments there was in my life when I just sort of ignorantly kind of went about day to day. How many specific moments were there in my day-to-day life experiences that I just really stop and run in the direction of God? It has to be intentional. There's nothing automatic about it. We'd like maybe to have somebody else live our life experience for us. Let them do the running. But the truth is, you have to do the running. I have to do the running. Sometimes we run for ourselves. Sometimes we run for other people. I can think of some people today. For instance, I don't know how many are aware that Sherry Stumbo's mother passed away on Friday. So she's there in Walla Walla all this week, most of last week, and taking care of arrangements with her family, and trying to adjust to the idea that Mom's not going to be there. Not in the same way. The relationship will be different from now on. It will be a memory. Even relationship with other family. On holidays. It's going to all change. And so, we can pray for her today. We can pray for Maline's family. And the situation there with life and with health. And there are people who are ill. Just really getting information that there's a lot of people with colds and flu kinds of things. And the light you're here. A lot of people down. So let's just pray. Let's just make our run this morning. Let's run this morning. We're not going to physically run and go anywhere. We're going to run to God. Let's make a run in the direction of the Lord. Join me. Father God, we come before you today. We make our run in your direction. Running to your arms because we know your love is assured us. That your arms are always going to be outstretched toward us, inviting us, welcoming us, ready to embrace us. And today we choose today to run to you, to run in your direction. We choose today to set yesterday aside, to set the schedule of tomorrow aside, all the plans, the activities, tomorrow being a holiday, and maybe some special event kind of things scheduled, but we set all that aside so that today we can just run to you. That we can find in you a peace and a comfort. That we can find in you a strength that can come from nowhere else. That we can find in you a sense of balance for our lives when so often our running about in the activities of the day-to-day, we get unsettled and we find ourselves kind of out of balance, out of sync. Part of the reason we're here in this place today is this desire to rediscover who you are and to open our lives in the hope that you will speak into us and that you will address some of the concerns that we are facing and that you will work in some of the places in our lives that are a bit out of balance and that we can walk away from here changed, different in some way. And so God, we run to you today. Our run is in your direction. We value your embrace. as we run into your arms. And you provide the comfort and the strength for tomorrow. So we bless you today. We come on behalf of some who are in need. We think of Maline's family and how much they're dealing with and how they're having to, take care of so much and the extra traveling. And we think today of Sherry and her extended family members and what they must be feeling today and how they're already even just making adjustment to the idea that things will be different. We ask for you to strengthen them, help them as they make plans for a memorial celebration service for this wonderful lady of faith who served you for so many years. And we just ask you to touch them. Be with those who are sick, even some right here in this room that are kind of feeling a little bit under the weather today. And we just ask that you would provide us strength. Heard this morning that Carl Hood is home and just fighting something that has got him down. And we're just asking God that you would touch him. And maybe there are other things today, Lord, that aren't so physical in nature. Maybe they're spiritual, Lord. Maybe they're emotional. Maybe they're relational. But whatever it is that seems to have impacted our lives in an adverse way today, we ask that you would set yourself in the middle of that and bring about for us, in us, what only you can do. Bless the time we pray. In Jesus' name. Amen. We'll take a minute and say hi to somebody. Just let somebody know how glad you are they're here. Children can make their way out to Children's Church, and nursery attendants are here and available for the younger toddlers. So glad you're here. Oh, good to have you here this morning. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. We had a wonderful service last Sunday night. We missed many of our regular people. We had some really big traditional family events going on. When we scheduled this, I didn't realize how many people that would affect. We had a good service here. And the exciting thing is that apparently we got some response to our door hangers, because we had some people here from the communities that had never been here before and seemed very thankful, very appreciative to have had a place to be on a Christmas Eve night. And we had one great fellowship before and after. I was a little surprised. We promised 5 o'clock to 6. We started at 5 and got out at 6:02. But people didn't go home. Those that didn't get here in time for refreshments before stayed and had loads of good stuff. And real tasty stuff. We had a good time. Hope you guys had blessed celebrations where you were. And then Happy New Year's. It meets Sunday differently every year. Both these holidays do. I'm guessing most of you are off tomorrow. And some of you have some football planned. Some of you have some dinners planned. We've accepted an invite to be for dinner at Elizabeth's place tomorrow. Means I'm still going me some food. All right. And I was chuckling earlier when Tristan got up to lead worship. He said, we're going to sing some songs and praise the Lord. Karen thought you said we're missing some songs. She was down here trying to figure out where are we going to find some songs. They're missing. So I had to tell her, no, he said, we're going to sing some songs. So she settled in and was able to worship. Well, Karen was on vacation all week. She has to speak for that about January, and she doesn't get it every year. They have to trade that off. She was on vacation, so I thought, I've got vacation time that I haven't used. And so I kind of grabbed my laptop and took it home, and I kind of had a working vacation at home. Tuesday morning was sermon prep from the dining room table. And then Thursday is the day, rather than me being here, it's just over texting and email and telephone with Tori to make sure that Sunday Bulletin got published and ready for it. And everything got posted to Facebook and to a church app and whatnot. So it was kind of fun just to kind of be home where my brother was there part of the time. Our daughter left on Tuesday morning, mid-morning, late morning, to go back home, and her sister left early Tuesday morning to go to the doctor's appointment. So, I hope you had a good time. We certainly had a very relaxed day. For us, Christmas is pretty quiet anymore. We don't have children around. Our grandkids are on the East Coast, and so Christmas for us is pretty quiet. And tell somebody this week out in the community, I think at a coffee shop in town, where I said, Christmas is pretty quiet, and I'm okay with quiet anymore. I'm okay with quiet anymore. Yeah, it probably does, but it's becoming old, antiquated, and if you notice the front cover of your worship folder today, the screenshot that's there. Really, I've just felt the last couple of weeks the inspiration to launch the new year, and of course finish 2017 and launch into 2018 with this idea I'm calling vital signs. Vital signs, embracing spiritual health, time for a checkup. I want to take about 5 weeks kind of today and through the month of January, to talk about my text. To talk about just some review of life. And we get this from the scripture, 2 Corinthians. We'll read that in just a moment, but let me just kind of get our minds kind of focused in a common direction this morning. The Apostle Paul, just to kind of talk about the text a little bit, the Apostle Paul, in his missionary journeys, I don't know if you've studied that or not. I remember a number of years ago I did a thorough, deep study of the book of Acts with a group of people, and took probably a year and a half to walk through the book of Acts. And we studied in detail Paul's missionary journeys and where he went, and we took maps and tracked it all the way through so we could see the relationship between what's being said in Acts and the book of Ephesians and Colossians and Philippians and Corinthians, and where Paul was in his missionary journeys. But he had made at this point when he's writing this apparently 2 missionary journeys. And either he established new churches in various places, or he went back a second time to encourage and strengthen and reconnect with them. And he apparently, in the writing of this text in Corinthians, in writing this text, he apparently is making plans on going to see them again, the people in Corinth. He's planning another journey. He took 3 missionary trips. And apparently, the writing of this, he is planning on a 3rd trip. But there's some delay. He can't go right now, is the idea that I'm getting as I read this, the wrap-up of this letter, this 2nd book of Corinthians, that he's planning on another trip, but he can't do it right now, and therefore had some things he wanted to say to them, and some things that he felt were really pretty important. And so he writes this 2nd letter. He actually writes 2, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, and they are letters. They're not just to be looked at as Bible books. They're letters. They're letters to the church in Corinth. Letters to the body of people there in the city of Corinth who had been converted to the Christian faith and were meeting regularly, probably in homes, not in big public buildings like this, but meeting in homes and encouraging each other in this newfound faith. And I think you know, if you've studied Corinthians at all, you know that the church in Corinth was not a perfect church. This is not a perfect church. The only way this could be a perfect church is if everybody in this room was completely 100% perfect. Anybody stepping in that line? And so it's an imperfect church because it's made up of imperfect people. And yet Corinth had some unique problems that Paul was really having to address, and he spoke to them very strong at times and let them know, you're acting like mere men. You're acting worldly. He speaks in the 3rd chapter of 1 Corinthians how worldly your behavior looks. You're Christians, but you're not acting like Christians. You're acting like mere men. That's what he says. So he's very strong in these letters because this was an imperfect church that had some issues. And so I say all of that to say it looks now, as we get ready to look at this text, as if he's planning on making another visit. In the meantime, though, he's offering them some really solid advice. And interesting advice as he wraps up not the first letter, but the 2nd letter. The wrap-up has some words that I think are really intentional by Paul, but I think they should be very intentionally reviewed by us. So let's take a look. Text likely is on your screen in front of you. Chapter 13 of 2 Corinthians, beginning with verse 5. It says here, examine yourselves to see whether you're in the faith. Test yourselves. Now, Karen, you have the New American Standard still, don't you? Would you check real quick? I didn't take time to look at that. I believe the New American Standard opens this passage, verse 5, up by saying, check up on yourselves to see whether you're in the faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Christ Jesus is in you, unless, of course, you fail the test? I trust that you will discover that we have not failed the test. Now we pray to God that you will not do anything wrong, not that people will see that we stood the test, but that you will do what is right, even though we may seem to have failed. That's an interesting comment. He's saying, even if we have failed, you see to it that you don't. Don't look at just us. Don't depend on us to hold you up in the faith. How many of you know somebody who tried to live out their Christian life through somebody else? Instead of standing up on their own 2 feet. It doesn't work that way, does it? And so, Paul goes on, for we cannot do anything against the truth, but only for the truth. We are glad whenever we are weak, but you are strong. And our prayer is for your perfection. And it goes on. Now, this is sound good advice. anytime somebody is urging you and I to do a periodic checkup on our lives, that's good advice. In fact, we probably don't do it enough. Most of us, as we get older, we're being urged to get checkups more often with the doctor to make sure that our blood pressure is good, that our heart rate is sound, that we get a good colonoscopy from time to time, that we make sure that we're in good health. And I concern that one of the places maybe we neglect most is the spiritual checkups. That we kind of just ramble through life, and we go back day to day, and we make a lot of assumptions that everything about our lives is okay. And as a result, sometimes we kind of settle into the mediocre. We run down the middle instead of striving and reaching for excellence in the Christian faith. And Paul seems to be really well aware of the importance of doing a checkup and doing it often. So he says, examine yourselves. He said, check up on yourselves. What is the test? Verse 5 in the New American Standard opens up by saying, test yourselves.
Test yourselves to see if you are in the faith. Examine yourselves.
I did not really just take time to search multiple translations to see which one has that, but I know there are translations that just say, check up on yourselves. It means the same. Examine, check up on yourselves. And so today and for the next few weeks, I want us to do a checkup. I want us to do a checkup. If I was really smart with media and with this sort of technology, building these screenshots, I would have a stethoscope on that screenshot that was on the screen and the one that's on your bulletin. I would have a stethoscope across the middle of that screenshot. Up in your ears, put it over your heart, your spiritual heart, and do a checkup. How's it beating? Is it steady? Is it consistent? Is it strong? Is it really good and solid? Do I seem to be in good health? And that's what this is about. Just talk a little bit. I'm curious, how many of you are in the process of New Year's resolution? Anybody making a resolution? You don't have to tell us what it is. How many of you have already considered, I'm making a resolution for New Year's? There's about 4, 5, 6 in the room. My hand is up. So there's 8 of us, roughly, so far, that have listen, we're already at that place in our lives where we're considering some kind of resolution because there's something about our lives or our schedules or our practices or whatever it may be that we want to see adjusted in some way. Now that's healthy. I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions in that a lot of times resolutions are just formalities to make us feel better, and we really deep down don't intend to do anything with it. And even if we do, often we forget about it until about June. And by that time, we're already rolling toward next year's resolution. And so they go nowhere. So I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions, yet this year I have made one for myself. And the challenge will be to implement that and follow through. Why? Because I've done some checkup on myself. Some examination. Because I want to be well as I possibly can. So I want to talk today briefly in more general ways. Starting next week, we'll get specific, because I want to take 1 week and just talk about checkup on life. But we just look at our lives in a fairly direct way, and we We just scope out aspects of our lives and we get to ask the question, God, what are you wanting to do in my life? As every time we turn a new year, that's maybe the best way you can enter the new year. Is say, God, is there something you're wanting to do in my life this year? Take a look over your life experience. So next week we'll do that. The following week we're going to talk about a checkup on relationship. We'll look at the relationships in our lives. And that can be challenging because sometimes our relationships are a little rocky. Karen and I, we've been through some things ourselves these past few years. I think she would say, as I would say, that we're probably as good right now as we've been in decades. I think she still feels glad that she married me 45 years ago. I'm glad still that I married her. But we have put boxing gloves on it. Not literally, but it feels like we have. And relationships, wouldn't you agree, are challenging. They just don't come easy. And it's never come easy for us. There are some times in our relationship that if we had not been committed to the Christian faith and committed to the institution of marriage, we probably would have said, you know what, this is just way too hard. I know there were times I looked for a catalog. Can you shop? Can you trade them in? Can we get a new one? And I know she did the same for me. There was times that we loved each other, but we certainly didn't like each other very much. So we're going to talk about relationships and doing the checkup on our relationships. But for today, let's talk about some elements of a resolution. I'm not urging you to make a resolution. I'm wanting to weave in the idea of New Year's resolutions to what the Apostle Paul is saying here. New Year's revolution. Maybe that's what we need, a New Year's revolution. Revolution of Christian faith. So if you're taking notes today, let's just fill in a few blanks here and just bring some aspects of what New Year's resolution is and how it slides alongside the message here of the Apostle Paul to carefully examine, to check up on yourself, to test your own life and make sure. If elements of an effective resolution, number one is careful examination. I believe Paul is correct. Careful examination. What do we mean by that? What we mean by that is I think it's beneficial, it's smart, it's essential for each of us regularly to pause and look our lives over pretty thoroughly to make sure that we're not making assumptions about our lives and find that we're really not as healthy and doing as good as what we think we are. And if we don't get intentional about it, if we don't ask the questions, if we don't deliberately decide to look over the various components of our lives, we may just ramble on and drift along in the assumption that everything's okay when in fact it's not. And so what we need to do at this point in our lives, and a great time to do that, is as we finish one year and we open up a new year, I'll probably watch a ball drop somewhere in New York City or someplace. I'll probably watch one of these shows on TV and see the new year come in. I prefer to do one that's on the East Coast so I don't have to stay up till quite so late. Again, because I'm getting old. Because we're pretty well ready to nod by 10 o'clock anymore. And even if we tried to see the new year, we're probably not going to make it. But I probably will watch it somewhere and see the celebration, but the reality is that's really not what this is about. What it's really about is knowing that as we finish 2017 and move into 2018, it's a smart thing for us to pause and say, how am I doing? How am I doing? What changes need to be made in my life? To make careful examination, to look over our lives really thoroughly. Second thing that needs to happen for a New Year's resolution to be effective, and that is not only careful examination, but honest discovery. Now, what do we mean by honest discovery? Acknowledge areas of needed change. It's you just take a passing glance and you see something, and then just close your eyes real quick because I don't want to see it. Kind of like when somebody's telling you something you need to hear but you don't want to hear. You put your fingers in your ears, you la 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 la. Well, maybe you don't do that. I've done it. In fact, we've done that to each other in recent months. The older we get, the less mature we seem. But you have to be able to come to the place to acknowledge where your faults are, where your weaknesses are, where your shortcomings are, where you fall below the level of what you believe you ought to be living. And I'll tell you what, there is never an age where we need to stop doing that. I hope you understand that. You can't hit the age of 65 and say, I'm done. I don't have to do this anymore. No, the reality is, if you live to be 100, at the age of 100, you still need to be examining your life, looking it over, and making honest discovery and acknowledge areas of needed change. Make a list, check it twice. Write it down. And look at those things and consecrate those things to God. And say, God, I'll never do this on my own, but there's some spots in my life. I've taken a careful watch. I've examined. I've checked up on my life. And I find some places and readily acknowledge some areas that need some work. It's not a bad thing. We shouldn't get depressed at that. We should actually be pretty excited about that. Gives us a chance to, once again, refresh and renew and believe that God is still at work in our lives, that we're not yet what God will have us be. We're closer, hopefully. But it's examinations like this that help us move further and get closer. Paul says, examine yourselves to see whether you're in the faith. And the truth is, for believers, everything about our lives is spiritual. If the relationships, that's a spiritual matter. Would you agree with that? As Christians, if we're dealing with relational issues, that is a spiritual matter. If we have other areas of our lives that seem to be, aside from biblical truth and whatnot, they're still spiritual matters because we are spiritual people, because we are followers of Christ, and those become spiritual matters. So when Paul says, examine yourselves to see if you're in the faith, even relationships fit into that. And so we'll talk about that. So, careful examination, look your life over good. Honest discovery, acknowledge areas that needed change. Third, is you need clear vision. I am a visionary. Some of you are not. Not in the truest, fullest sense of the word. Some of you are not the ideas people, but you're the go along with people. You're not the one that creates new venture. You're the one that comes alongside. You're not the dreamer. You're the doer. I'm a dreamer. And so one of the things that I like to do, I'm always, in regards to church and ministry, and maybe you don't want to hear this, but one of the reasons why we face so much change in the church is because guys like me are always stopping and asking the question, what is God wanting to do? How are we supposed to change? How are we supposed to be different tomorrow than we are today as a church? So that's what my life as a pastoral leader is a lot about. I believe one of the responsibilities God has placed upon my life is to dream and to vision, to envision what is not yet actually in front of me but could be. And in order to do that, ask God what it is He sees for His church. What does He want to do? That's who I am. And yet I know there are people right in this room, as I think about board members and whatnot, and those who have served, and some of them have been visionaries, some of them have not. And so there's some people on the board that I don't look to be the idea starters. I don't. They're not visionaries. They're not the dreamers. But if you want somebody that'll sit and listen and think and say, hey, I'm in, I like it, count me in, go guess. It's great, but they're not the place where the idea is going to start. That's who I am. Clearly, I love being one of those people, so clear vision. What I mean by this is you need to determine what you want to happen in your life. Don't stop by careful examination. Don't stop with just honest discovery. Got these issues, these things, these matters. Go further and say, how do I want to see my life change? And with that, you begin to look at actual steps you can take that will be helpful and effective. Lastly, it takes strong determination. You have to decide you're going to do something about it. You that have already made New Year's resolutions, I can promise you this, nobody else is going to succeed with your resolution. There's nobody else you can rely on to get it done for you. It has to be you, no matter what it is. Like I said, I've got one, and I know what I feel confronted about. I know what I feel like needs to happen, and now I'm having to go back and say, okay, what do I have to do to make sure I meet that expectation? I can't rely on any of you to do that for me. You have to do it, I have to do it. So it takes careful examination, honest discovery, clear vision, and strong determination. So what is a resolution? Look at a dictionary definition. I believe it will be on the screen for you. A resolution is fixed purpose and determination of mind as a decision to reform our lives or to undertake an expedition. Some of us have already said we're going to undertake an expedition this 2018. We're going to go on a journey, and that journey is going to bring about change in our lives. That's what a resolution is. It is fixed purpose and determination of mind as a decision to reform our lives or to undertake an expedition. So, taking this to another level, there are 4 things in the next few minutes that I'll give you just in the way of building a resolution. Number 1, note a desired change. Okay? I'm examining, I'm taking notes. Here's what I want to see change. Why do we write that down? Anybody know? Why do we write that down instead of just thinking about it? Okay, several reasons. One is if we don't write it down, it could be lost. 2 is scientifically, even the study of human psychology, it's been verified that we remember more of what we write down than simply what we see or hear or think. When you write it down, it requires more senses, and so you set it deeper in your mind, in your heart. So you write it down. Note a desired change. Okay, here's what I believe needs to change in my life this year. You write it down. In fact, I think you need to do more with it than that, and we'll come to that. Second thing is set a measurable goal. Sometimes people, if you don't get specific and you just sort of loft this desire, this dream out there, but you have no tangible handles for it, no specifics, it's really difficult to move forward with it, and it's difficult to even know whether you're succeeding with it at all. And so you have to set some measurable goals. For instance, let me give you an example of an area that nobody wants to talk about. If there's somebody in the room that maybe you're making a resolution, say, I need to lose some weight. Is it enough just to want to lose weight? Well, you need to write that down, but probably you need to have a measurable goal. Measurable goal would be, I need to lose 20 pounds. That's measurable. Because you can always know how you're doing based upon that number. Come 1st of June, if I still need to lose 20 pounds, then it's pretty clear I'm not moving forward very good with that. Maybe we need to do some other things, though. You have to make a personal commitment. It's not going to, there's nothing about it that's automatic. What does the commitment look like? Well, my dietary practices are going to change. My physical fitness strategies are going to shift. Whatever else it may take for me to accomplish that measurable goal toward that ultimate desired change, we have to do it. So you need to know the desired change, set a measurable goal, make a personal commitment, and I'm going to add one more, and that is secure an accountability partner. My experience is, I don't care what it is, as long as we've hidden it within ourselves, and we're the only ones that know about it, and there's nobody out there asking the question, so how are you doing with your goal? Karen, for, I don't know, a few years, it's been a few years ago, connected with Weight Watchers. Anybody done that? Done that right? You know why you do that? It's accountability. The people who succeed the most are the people who are accountable to someone, somewhere. I learned many years ago, she and I are not the best accountability partners for each other, especially on matters of weight management. The last person she wants to have as her accountability partner in that is me. And yet she would tell you that it's really important to have an accountability set up. I feel like it's important to have an accountability set up. And it doesn't matter what it is. Now, I'm just using one example, and it's probably the last example you want me to try to use today. If anybody sitting out here who feels like you're overweight and you need to have a New Year's resolution to rectify that, you're probably getting a little mad right now. Little hot under the collar. Not personal, I'm just giving an example, and I'm certainly not looking over the group and you need to do. It's not my business. I just wanted a practical example that most people will connect with, and who doesn't understand that? I would venture to say that the highest percentage of New Year's resolutions have to do with weight management, don't you think? Is that probably true? Could well be. So, secure an accountability partner. Who might that be? It could be an organization like Weight Watchers. It could be a close friend. Somebody that you can confide anything in, and they won't criticize you, they won't talk about you to others. They'll just be your partner, your friend. And you never worry about what you say to them because you know it's trustworthy. They're trustworthy. So over the next few weeks, this has been a little different today. I know that. But over the next few weeks, as we start to check up on life, check up on relationship, and a couple other areas of personal checkup, I think I know what those are both going to be. I have them in place right now, but I'm simply open to the idea that maybe God would go a different direction on one or both of those. But at this point, if God doesn't make a change, I know where we're going for the next 4 weeks. And as we look it's going to be helpful for us to note areas of desired change. It's going to be helpful for us to set measurable goals. In relationship, it might mean I'm going to make contact with so-and-so by the end of this month. Whatever, that's measurable. But we need to make a personal commitment, and we need to secure an accountability partner. As praise teams come to the platform, just quickly, one quick question to you, and a couple of thoughts. Question I'm not looking for an answer to today, because it's not important. It's not important that I have an answer to anyway. What's important is that you ask the question. The question is this: what is it that you believe needs to happen in your life this year? And by this year, we mean 2018. We're not going to let you off that easy. You're only going to live the rest of the day. Say, well, I'm done. No, we're starting tomorrow. And we're asking the question, what is it that you believe needs to happen in your life this year? That could be a lot of things. What is it that you believe needs to happen in your life this year? And I would approach that with some excitement. Don't dread that. Paul doesn't urge us to examine ourselves, to check up on ourselves with a sense of dread. This is all about moving us forward. This is all about success. This is all about being better people. It's all about moving forward with our lives in a positive way. Who doesn't want to do that? So that's the question we need to be asking for the next few weeks. What is it that you believe needs to happen in your life this year? We ask it this way. We'll ask it differently. God, what do you want to do? You're really brave. Maybe ask your spouse. What do you think an area of needed change in our relationship is? From my point. I mean, you want to bring your spouse to the same page with you? It's probably a pretty good question. You want to bring your spouse to the place where he or she says, you know what, I think they really do well. I think they really want the best relationship. So you might ask that. Well, we're going to look over several areas of life and Christian experience over the next 4 weeks that I hope will be valuable to you as we continue to pray and seek the Lord for where we go after that in the area of preaching and teaching ministry. I always try to pray, seek the Lord, and find out what God sets into my spirit for where we go next. And so I promise you, I assure you, I will be doing that. But let's take some time just to sing and see how the Lord continues just to resonate these thoughts in our spirits today.
Hello, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign.
God, help us today to be bold enough, willing enough And to do it regularly. With a positive sense of hope. Because we understand that that could well be the beginning of new and fresh things in our lives. That very examination is one of the things that opens us up and sets us in the right place so that you can do the work you're wanting to do. And it means we're not going to just stay the same. It means we're not going to just continue to recycle the same old patterns and practices in our lives, but in fact, we need something fresh and new. As we open up this next year, we believe today that you've already got some things on your heart that you want to do in each of our lives. We believe that because you are a sovereign Lord. You are the highest of high. You are the final say. You are the one who knows all, who sees all, and you, of all people, understand where those places are in our lives for needed change. And that when we come to the end of this next year, 2018, we're going to be different people. Why? Not because of something someone else did, but because we decided we wanted to be better. We decided we wanted our lives to be more productive. We decided we needed to grow in some places and to see our lives develop into something more solid, stronger, more effective. That our lives could have a much better influence on the lives of others. And that our effectiveness in the world as Christian people in a very non-Christian world in a lot of ways, that we can be difference makers there. But it could well begin with an examination. By the decision to check up on ourselves. To put ourselves to the test. To ask the question, God, what do you want to do in our lives this year? We bless you because we believe that great things are going to happen. Really believe that. So God, give us courage. Give us wisdom. Give us honesty. The ability not to just take a loose, careless examination, but a really careful one. Without fear of what we might find, because finding that means we're taking already the first step to some needed change. So we welcome it. We welcome your input. We welcome the input and work of the Holy Spirit in our lives over this next week or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. As you begin to consider with us adjustments to our lives. For that we'll always be grateful because we do believe any change you bring about in our lives is for our good and the good of our mission and ministry in the world. And that it will be good changes for those of our loved ones and our neighbors and our co-workers. It will be good for us. So we welcome your work. We welcome you to just freely operate as we take an examination of our lives. We bless you. God, we also take time today to thank you and bless you for the offering we receive. And that this not be treated as just something routine. Every week we pass the plates, and every week some do, some don't, depending on our pay schedules and whatnot. But that there's nothing about this that is just routine. That this is a very intentional act of worship. That as we place our gift in the plate, we do so worshiping you and honoring you and believing that this is an investment in the kingdom of God. And that you will take it and use it. Give us wisdom to know how to use it wisely and to the best good for your Take it today, bless it, and use it. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Ushers, please come forward and wait on us as I quickly scan with you our worship folder today. You have a worship folder in front of you, I believe. There are a few things in here. By the way, the Think Mission is going to go away this week as we try to keep these only 2 weeks, and we look into the new year. Try to always have a missional thought in nature, but it could go any number of directions. This time probably having to do with the new year. So we're going to brainstorm the next few days about that. Keep in mind, too, that the Senior Adult Fellowship Bible Study is launching again after a holiday break on the 11th, Thursday the 11th, and I believe we're going to do study part 2. You're finishing up good, so I have a little time getting materials here. The study of James, which you're really be enjoying the study of James. If you're available daytime, you're welcome to be a part of that and be here at the church. We have baptism coming up on the 14th. We need to hear from you. So far, we have 2, and heard today of the possibility of a couple others. And we need to be baptized. Now's the time. What a great way to start the new year. What a great way to launch into 2018 with a fresh, spiritual moment in your life, because it is a spiritual thing. And then also, Sunday the 21st, the very next week, we have a Reimagine Tomorrow event. That is what we used to always call, I even hate to say it, annual business meeting. Does that sound boring? Who wants to come to another meeting? I like to call it Reimagine Tomorrow because it's about the future for the most part. And plan to come. We'll have a lunch for everybody. Plan to come and stay. It's where we're going to vote on the budget for the next year. There's a possibility that I'll be sharing my ministry plan for the coming year. We'll be looking at just a lot of aspects of who we are as a church and what our dream is for tomorrow. I hope you'll come with some dream about what we could see in the near future. So anyhow, there's a lot of things here. If you have questions about any of this, don't forget to plug on Friday nights. And if you have any questions about any of this, do contact us. We'll be glad to get them back to you as quick as we can. So glad you're here. Happy New Year. Be safe. And let's greet each other. Let's greet each other with